Revelations 3, begin with verse 14. To the angel of the church in Laodicea, write, these are the words of Amen. The faithful and true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing. But you do realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so you can become rich, and white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes, so you can see. Those who I love I rebuke and discipline. So be earnest and repent. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him, and he with me. To him who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I have overcame and I sat down with my Father on his throne. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. May the Lord have blessing to his word this morning.
Thank you, Brother Devin. And thank you, Michael, for taking care of the presentation and more in the back. And Sister Sharon for playing the piano as well. It takes a lot of work to make a church service happen, and you don't see a lot of it behind the scenes when you're up here, but it is definitely a village when it comes to doing morning worship service. Now, I gotta admit, I was back there this morning, and I looked at my little mailbox, and there was a lot of Christmas cards still in my mailbox, and that is like, has it really been a year since I've been in Dry Run? And I think it has. I was trying to remember the last time I was here, and it's probably been a year ago when I was preaching the message before Thanksgiving, when Pastor Wayne was out hunting. And if you remember if you remember my sermons, I like to hand out things and give you a little treat, something that you could enjoy in the midst of the sermon, something you could take home. And today, if you don't happen to have one and would like one, I do have Coke and Diet Coke in the cooler back there. There's plenty more there's plenty more that you could have 2 or 3, because I don't need it. Piper doesn't need it. I don't want a little girl, that 18-month-old girl, running around all jacked up on sugar. Don't want that to happen. Yes, Grace, I know. So in fact, I know the stewards would probably hate me for this, but I don't mind if you open it up and drink your Coke or your Diet Coke today. Now, what does this have to do with the message? What does this have to do with the sermon? And we'll get to it, but I think it's important to learn about the importance of Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola is an American brand. It's been around for over 100 years and is enjoyed pretty much the world over. In fact, here are a couple bottles from Coca-Cola. It's probably too far to see. You got the 2 outside ones and the middle one, both all just saying Coca-Cola. The one on the left here is actually in Hebrew. I don't know what it says. I don't understand Hebrew. This one's actually in Arabic. And Arabic script actually spells Coca-Cola. That's how you would say it in Arabic. It says Coca-Cola. So, world brand. Now, some interesting facts about Coca-Cola, and part of the reason I'm saying it's okay to drink your Coca-Cola is because every second, 10,000 people are taking a sip of their Coca-Cola. Just that very second, I was joined with 9,999 other people consuming a Coke. Now, there's only 2 countries. I said it's a global. There's only 2 countries in the world that doesn't have Coca-Cola. North Korea and Cuba. And that's why communism is really bad. You don't have Coca-Cola. Just one of the reasons. One of the reasons. If America ever becomes a communist country, just realize we can't have Coca-Cola anymore. Just a rule. I don't make these rules up. It's the free market, oddly enough. You can't have Coca-Cola. If you drank a different Coke beverage every single day, it would take you 9 years to drink through the Coca-Cola's portfolio of beverages. They have over 3,500 different types of Coke products. Now, we're including Dasani water. We're including like Mellow Yellow and Diet Dr. Pepper, or Dr. Pepper's not actually a Coke product. Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Cherry Coke, Vanilla Coke, Cherry Vanilla Coke, Diet Cherry Vanilla Coke. There's over 3,500 different Coke products. And I wish they would do this, donate some money for my bank account, but over 20 of those brands generate over $1 billion a year in revenue for Coca-Cola. Now, if you're ever in Atlanta, I've been to this place twice. There's this place called Coke World. It's right around Centennial Park. There are aquariums nearby. Actually, the CNN Center is nearby as well. The old Atlanta where the Falcons used to play used to be nearby as well. They have this museum dedicated to Coke. And it's a really fun museum. They have this 3D ride. They actually call it a 4D ride, so it's 3D, but your seat moves and they spray like little water at you, like the bubbles, and then they have bubbles flying. It's a really cool experience. You get to see go through the process of how they make Coca-Cola. And then at the very end, before you go through the gift shop, not to leave, you always have to go through the gift shop. But in the very end, they have just a bunch of soda fountains where you could try 60 different brands that Coca-Cola has. And I've been twice, and I've tried twice to try all 60 brands that are available. And I get about 20 in, and I'm like, oh man, this stomach is doing somersaults. Like, just some of them don't mix. Some of them do not mix at all. And it's like, oh gosh, this was a bad life choice. I should not make this endeavor of trying all 60 types of Coke products at Coke World. But I bet most people's interaction, now this predates me because it's almost 50 years old if you think about it. The famous Coke commercial. I see some smirks, and I'm assuming that some people remember this.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. And the real I like to teach the world to sing. To perfect harmony, perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today. It's the real thing. What the world wants today. It's the real thing.
So there were a few people that were actually singing that song. Not only was it a commercial, but they actually elongated the song to make it a hit song back in the early 70s. Now, like I said, this commercial is, if you were to go into advertising, this is probably one of those famous commercials, like sports games. You remember, there's certain sports games that you remember. There's certain events that happen that you remember where you were when those events happened. Now, if I could say for commercials, this is one of those commercials that people remember. That wasn't even born. This is 12 years before I was born, and I know this commercial. In fact, I became most familiar with this commercial through the show Mad Men. It was on AMC, and the very end of the show was this commercial. That's the cultural relevance of something that played for 30 seconds more than about 50 years ago. Here are the lyrics. I'm going to try not to sing them because you don't want me to sing. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees. Thank you. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Unlike me. I'd like to buy the world. Wow, I could not reach that note. The world a Coke and wow. It's the real thing. It's just one of those jingles that it's gonna be it's stuck with me all week. I'd be sitting at work and I'd just like and I'd have to hop on my phone and like put the headphones in and have to listen. What are you listening to? I'm just listening to the Coke jingle from like 71. Just getting these weird looks. Yeah, I'm listening to the Coke jingle. Now, what does this have to do with our piece of scripture in Revelations? This is actually a picture of the ruins of Laodicea, where this letter to the church at Laodicea in Revelation chapter 3 took place. Now, I'm not going to read through it again. Devin already, it's a long scripture. Devin has already read through it. But I want to point out a few things. The first thing is, I know your deeds are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were cold or hot. Now, Laodicea, back then, they didn't have modern-day plumbing. They don't have wells that like most of the people here do. Back where I live in Laurel, Maryland, we have public water. There was no public water. There was. It wasn't underground pipes. It was aqueducts. And you had to go to the closest freshwater source that was available. Now, there are a couple other towns located around Laodicea that had some local freshwater sources. There was one town that had a nice, cool lake that the aqueducts brought the water to, and they had nice, cool water. And there was another town that had a hot spring nearby, and they would have the aqueducts bring this nice hot water from the hot springs. And you had nice hot water for your coffee or your tea. But Laodicea didn't have that. Laodicea's closest freshwater source was more than 5 miles away. And it was a lake full of sulfur. Now, do you know what sulfur smells like? What does it smell like? It smells like rotten eggs. So Laodicea's best source of water was fresh water 5 miles away that was via aqueduct brought down. So it didn't matter if it was cold or hot, because by the time it traversed those 5 miles, it was lukewarm. It's room temperature. And when you drank it, you smelled the sulfur, and you smelled like you were drinking rotten eggs. And there's significance in this letter, because when John, the Holy Spirit through John writes, I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot. I will spit you out of my mouth. Like, have you ever had like a bad food? Like really bad food? Like I try to experience, I live in an area where there's a lot of different cultures and there's a lot of different food. And I want to like give everything a chance. And there's just some that I tried. Think of in the Ethiopian culture, they had this bread that you usually put your food in, and the lentils or the meat, and it's usually really good together. But if you were to eat the bread by itself, it's disgusting. You put it in, and you're like, oh gosh, and you literally spit it. It doesn't look good either. It looks like gray. It's a thin gray. It reminds me of like skinning something. I'm getting by description. People are like, oh, I don't know about this. Ian, don't take me out for Ethiopian food. But that's what it's like. Because I will spit you out of my mouth. Because you say I'm rich and have become wealthy and am needed nothing. So we talked about Laodicea's water source. Laodicea was very, very rich. And they were rich because of something that I'll mention later on. That you were wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. So the blind is important. Goes to why they're rich. Gold refined through fire, your nakedness. And they talk about an eye salve to anoint your eyes so that you may see. Laodicea became rich because it was primarily it was a first century pharmaceutical hubbub. And what they were known for was making eye salves to cure people of blindness. And that's how they became rich, and that's what their claim to fame was, this eye balm to cure blindness. And that's why you see it mentioned in the letter. And you can imagine these pharmaceutical companies, you know how much they charge. I know there's a bunch of nurses here. You know how much the over-the-counter price for some of these drugs are, and you see how some of those executives are kind of high on the hog. It's not too difficult to see why there's a discussion of rich people and pharmaceuticals here. And I just mentioned this before, that the lukewarm sulfuric water was the primary problem that Laodicea had. But if you go back, I wish that you were either cold or hot, but you were lukewarm. Now, I don't know about you over the summer. Now, it's been recently really, really been cold. Like, well, you guys got ice and snow last night. So I went to the movie theaters last night. Piper was with the grandparents. Elena and I had a nice date night. We went out to dinner, and we went to the movie theater, and we watched It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks. It's such a great movie, and we ended up singing some of those songs, and some of the older folks around us started laughing at us, especially when they're like, "Snappy today," and we just got laughed at because we snapped, not in the bad way, the snappy. And then we got home, and it was cold and rainy, and I was like, you know what I want? I want a nice hot chocolate. A nice hot chocolate. In fact, it was even prevalent earlier in the day because I was trying to watch Penn State and Ohio State, and it was halftime, and Penn State was down 14-0. And I was like, I can't watch this anymore. I'm just going to take a hot bath and relax. And then I missed like all the points that Penn State scored, and then I come back, and it was just Ohio State dominating again to close out the game. And I cried. No, I didn't cry. I did cry. I didn't cry. It's like, they did better than what I expected. But hot water. Now, also in DC, because I live in the swamp and it's hot and humid there, it literally is a swamp. It is built on swamp land. In fact, George Washington's house, Mount Vernon, is on swamp land, and he filled in the swamp. And we're now realizing that there's some native creatures there that are potentially going extinct because of some of the swamp filling that George Washington did about 250 years ago, because it destroyed their habitat. It ended up being a whiskey distillery. That's what he filled the swamp in to make whiskey. But in July and August in the swamp, it becomes very hot and humid, and a nice cool Coca-Cola or water or any cool beverage is much appreciated. Now, I don't know if you've ever had, it's probably been long enough, if your Coke has become lukewarm. Mine is getting there, and it's not the most appetizing thing, needless to say. And my question, though, if we as Christians are supposed to be refreshing, like hot water, like a hot bath, or a hot cup of coffee or tea, or cold, on a hot, humid, muggy day, that coolness of refreshing, am I really that? to a downtrodden world, if I'm supposed to be a refreshment to the world around me, have I been? I know your deeds, that you are neither cold, nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot, but because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I'll spit you out of my mouth. In what ways have I lived a lukewarm Christian life? Last night and this morning, I was thinking of how have I been doing that. Now, I will admit that this is the first time I've been in church in about a month. And I have a reason for that. Elena got a new job, and she'll be starting at the first of the year at the Tuscarora School District. This necessitates us selling our house down in Maryland and buying a house in Mercersburg or St. Thomas. And I haven't been at church, and I haven't been giving to my tithes and offerings because we've been trying to do that. That having a full-time job and having a 17-month-old, it's really difficult to do during the week. And so we tour our houses on Saturday and Sunday, and we end up missing church. Or we're packing things up and taking it to storage on Saturday and Sunday, and we end up missing church. Or people come down, family and friends come to help us, and it ends up, because they have work too, it ends up being on Saturday and Sunday, and we end up missing church. Now, needless to say, I don't want to say good reason. There's not really a good reason to miss church, but it is a reason. That's been one area where I've sort of been lukewarm over the last few weeks. I wasn't at church last week because, we visited 5 homes last week in Greencastle and Mercersburg. It's a lot of homes. That's a lot of time. If you spend just 30 minutes in a home, just think that's about 2.5, 3 hours just looking at homes, let alone driving between the homes, let alone strapping in a 17-month-old and taking her out of a car seat with her just because she doesn't want to be in the car seat. You've seen her, how much she likes to run around earlier today. But that's been one area where I've been lukewarm. But I think there's been a bigger lukewarmness in the church over the last couple of years. And it's not just the Church of the Brethren. I think it's through all churches. And that has been the divisions that have existed for the last few years. And it's religious. I don't know if many of you get the Newsline newsletter from the Church of the Brethren. I have it right here. Right here. As I pull out every piece of paper that I have. But November 21st, denominational leadership team issues response regarding the Covenant Brethren Church, which is a church that's, I don't know what they're trying to do. I actually don't know much about them, but it sounds like they're very much trying to split away, try to form this organization. It's principally based out of Ohio, I believe. There's division in our church, and that division has been around it's been sort of blowing there. It's been there, boiling, simmering for quite some time, almost a good decade. Also political. I don't think I had to expound on this. There's been a lot of political division in this country for at least a good decade. And if you think it's prevalent for you, I'm inside the Beltway. I'm one of the swamp creatures that are part of the federal bureaucracy. It's very prevalent to us. Maybe not in the same way it is to you guys. It's sort of different for me. But the division sometimes sort of, it ties my hand on ensuring that what I'm doing guarantees public health and safety. I regulate nuclear reactors. I regulate nuclear medicine. And if I can't do that job efficiently, people could get hurt. There's ideological differences, racial divisions. The divisions have been decisive over the last decade. And as I go, have I helped in that? Have I caused that? Have I added to that? In fact, so this program is called Prezi. I like it a lot better than PowerPoint. I don't know if you've ever used PowerPoint. It is probably the bane of everyone's existence that has ever used PowerPoint, and it's not very appealing. Prezi is a little bit more appealing. And as I logged in today, they were like, "Oh, link this to your Facebook," so it's easier to log in. And Facebook goes, "Hey, we flagged your account because it's being accessed through multiple devices. My iPad, my phone, the computer back there, the computer I have in my backpack, the several computers I have at home." And they're like, "Can you please verify your last 4 comments? What were your last 4 comments? Please check them." And luckily, when I checked them, nothing divisive. Because I've consciously tried to keep out of that discussion. But it was a rude awakening. What were my last 4 comments? Were any of them uplifting? Were any of them tearing? Were any of them critical? Were any of them whining and crying like my daughter is doing back there, if you could hear her at the moment? It's probably nap time, that's why. And the reason I use that Coke commercial, because it was written by a gentleman by the name of Bill Backer, and Bill Backer actually hails from Washington, D.C. My current neck of the woods, now I guess in about a month's time, my former neck of the woods. And what he said, the inspiration for the song was a long flight delay in Ireland. If you have ever flown and your flight has ever gotten delayed, how do you feel about that? The last flight I've ever, so the last time I flew on a flight that got delayed was the annual conference as your annual delegate, and there was a mechanical problem on the plane, and they had to fly mechanics from Atlanta up to Harrisburg to fix the problem, and I was there an extra 6 hours, and needless to say, I wasn't very happy just sitting there hour after hour after hour after hour, waiting on them to put me on a different flight or fix the plane. But as he's sitting there, as all these people from around the world are sitting there, they're sitting in a cafe and they're misery joins company. They're talking about their misery over Coca-Cola. And instead of being miserable and being angry and upset, there's actually joy and happiness. He says, a tiny bit of commonality between all peoples, a universally liked formula that would help to keep them company for a few minutes. The jingle writer, not the lyric writer, but the jingle writer said this: the lyrics delivered a message of peace and camaraderie. I think we, as the Church of the Brethren, have that same message of peace and camaraderie, but the decisiveness, divisions, really causing that not to happen. I've been I was taking seminary courses this past year. I because of our move, I had to quit. And it was really eye-opening to take the Church of the Brethren history, to see where we as the Brethren have been. I know, slavery was an issue for the United States for many years. Since the founding of the Brethren in 1708, we always have taken an anti-slavery stance. For 150 years, before the Civil War, our stance have always been anti-slavery. We baptized black brothers. We allowed them into the church. We allowed them to preach in southern churches 20, 30 years before the Civil War. And yet we don't preach that message. We allowed women to speak at annual conference 150 years ago, to preach in churches 150 years ago, far earlier than any other denomination, because we recognize the leadership potential that women have. It's not just the men. That was something that was recognized way before other churches. The Church of the Brethren members walked with people in places like Selma during the Civil Rights Movement. That we had an anti-war stance that we stood up for. And we had a message of peace. And yet that message, those messages that we had of slavery and equality and equal treatment have been lost in our division. We've been hemorrhaging members, not just the Church of the Brethren, the church is just period. The church has been hemorrhaging members, and when you talk to people, at least when I talk to people about what the Church of the Brethren is and our history, it definitely gets people to scratch their head. Huh, I didn't realize the church thought that way. I didn't realize the church acted that way for the last 400 years. We have a message that could build community and camaraderie. Are we just sitting on it? Or even worse, are we just totally neglecting it and participating in that division? So my closing thoughts. In what areas of our Christian lives have I been lukewarm about? I told you mine over the last few weeks. My church attendance has been really bad over the last couple of weeks. Now, it should improve. We were really worried about our house selling. Sold in 12 days. Or it was under contract. So now I don't have to worry about a house. I have to worry about the inspection in 3 hours, thereabouts. But after that, we're good. And now we found a home. We've actually just went under contract a couple days ago. So now we don't have to worry about looking for a house on our weekends. We still have to worry about the packing and the moving stuff. That's more of a time management thing. And then we'll be seeing you guys more often, hopefully. But are there other areas where I've been lukewarm about? Have I participated in like the political or the religious discussions that have divided people instead of uniting them? And maybe I need to learn something from Coca-Cola. I need to share a Coke with people. And we can commiserate over delayed flights or the swamp people. I'm the swamp person. The swamp people that exist. We mostly talk about the political appointees that usually don't know what they're getting into because they just don't know that area. We commiserate over them sometimes. Over Coca-Cola. How can I unite with my brothers and sisters ideologically, religiously, politically? How do I unite with people that I don't share those common grounds with?